What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another episode of Under the Radar for you guys. This time we're talking about 3 albums that came out on February 9th that I didn't give a full review to, and we're going to kick things off with Petrification with Sever, Sacred Light. So this is an organ-based death metal band, and I was curious to check this one out considering a lot of the bands they were being compared to on the Metal Archives. And, well, with this album, you get this is pretty much like old school death metal, very much in the vein of, I would say, bands like Bolt Thrower, and dare I say even some Finnish death metal like Demigod, for example. But it does get kind of doomy at times, almost like Asphyx. But whenever it gets fast, it gets to like more of that like almost punky Swedish death metal vibe, kind of like Grave. So you get like some somber, clean guitars to start off, and then you get some like crazy dive bombs. There's some nice groove pockets going on, some double time moments, some nasty tremolo riffs to kind of give it a little bit of like a darker sound. The vocals kind of remind me a little bit of Carl Willits, I'm not gonna lie. There's some nice crawling riffs, little hints of melody pop up. It gets a bit thrashy and punky at times. Although I will say one big problem, I feel a lot of these songs kind of run together and they just sound very, very similar. And on top of that, some of these songs just kind of end abruptly. And that really holds this album back. The production's pretty good. It's raw with a solid mix. But I hate how the songs kind of end abruptly. And a lot of these songs just kind of sounded the same to me. But if you are a fan of Asphyx, Bolt Thrower, Demigod, Grave, check this out. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It's a solid album. Just not my favorite out of the ones for this episode. But now we get into a rather strange album, and that is Chapel of Disease with Echoes of Light. This is a German-based, originally death metal band, and now they're like a hybrid of progressive death metal and hard rock. Which sounds weird, but... And this is my first time checking this band out. I probably should check out their original death metal work, because I heard it's pretty fucking gnarly. But this, I believe, is their second album of their new proggy death metal hard rock hybrid they're going for. And I have to say, it's pretty fun. Like, you get some nice tasty licks, some cool melodies, some lavish prog moments within the melodies, cool bass flourishes, even occasional sci-fi ambience pops up here and there, but you do get some really cool, like, hard rock riffs that really stand out, some dissonant melodies a la Mastodon. The vocals, I will say, they kind of remind me, I forget the name of the frontman for Tribulation, but it kind of reminds me of that. Some awesome heroic tremolo riffs that rarely pop up, and there's really only a couple of songs where you get any blast beats whatsoever. Some great clean guitar work to give it more of that proggy feel. Tasty leads, clean vocals are pretty well executed, and even some nice 80s synths pop up on a track, as well as occasional D beats. If I had to come up with any complaints about this album, I mean, I guess if I was going into this thinking I'm going to get some nasty death metal, considering that's how they were listed early on, instead I got this more prog death metal hard rock hybrid, which I don't mind. I actually think it's pretty good. Like, I actually think this is a pretty good album for what it's going for. Just maybe not in comparison to their early works. It's kind of like, maybe like Tribulation, where Tribulation were more of a death metal band, and now they're more gothic metal, but both styles executed very well. This perhaps is the case with Chapel of Disease. But for closer bands to compare this to, if you're a fan of, I would say, Amorphous, In Mourning, Mastodon, and Opeth, check this out. I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I thought this was actually some pretty good stuff for what it was going for. But now we get on to the final album, and that is F.K.U, which stands for Freddy Krueger's Underwear with the Horror and the Metal. Yeah, goofy band name, but this is a Swedish thrash metal band, and holy shit, this is some high energy, catchy, fun, old school thrash metal. Solid production with a great mix, like the bass is very prominent, which is awesome. And of course, thrashy machine gun riffs and gritty vocals, I will say, that kind of remind me of, it's almost like a mix of Mark from Death Angel and Zetro from Exodus. Kind of like the middle man between those two is what this vocalist sounds like. Love the drum work on here. The riff work and the solos are just excellent. Lots of nods, I would say, to mostly Bay Area thrash like Exodus, Testament, Death Angel, but also Overkill. I get a little bit of nods to Overkill, but when it does get really fast, it's almost like German thrash levels of speed, but still with that like American thrash metal sensibility to it. Nice double time moments pop up, and even some triplet chugging on one track, which was really refreshing to hear on this album. But yeah, overall, this is just fun, energetic, old school thrash metal. Don't really have any complaints otherwise, so if you are a fan of Death Angel, Exodus, Overkill, and Testament like I am, check this album out. I thought this was a great album. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5, so neck and neck with Morbid Saint for Best Thrash Album of the Year thus far, and who would have thought with a name like Freddy Krueger's Underwear, it'd be something awesome. But of course, those are just my opinions. What do you guys think? Of course, links to the albums will be in the description, but until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.